Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Kamal. I'm the Regional Manager for Higher Education at Cambridge International. And I would like to welcome each and every one of you to the webinar on information on US university admissions. I know that for many of you, this is not your first webinar that you've attended, that we've organized, and welcome back. Today, I want to start by saying thank you to my panel of speakers. I'm starting with Luke from Education USA. Luke is based in Jakarta. And next we have speakers from Northeastern University, Bo Benson as well as Brandon Graham. Good evening, guys, and good morning from Singapore. Likewise to David Dai from University of California, Riverside. David, good evening to you. Now, for today, we are going to start with all the panel presentations, and follow that we are going to have the Q&A session. Now, for the bulk of the Q&A session, we are going to answer questions that have already been pre-sent. And for the live questions, we will select and see whether we can answer to you, answer the questions on the chat box, on the Q&A box rather. And if there are any questions that might not be relevant to the discussion, we will dismiss it, right? Some housekeeping for you to take note of. Your video and mic functions have been turned off. You can type your questions in the Q&A, and we will be recording this session, and this will be shared after the completion of the session. Now, for those of you who attended the UK session, I do apologize. There were technical issues with our recording of the UK webinar, and because of that, we've shared the PowerPoint instead. Yeah. I just want to refresh you on the grading methodology for the June series. Many of you are aware that the exams have been canceled, schools are closed because of the pandemic situation, and Cambridge took the step of introducing a new grading methodology. And I want to assure all of you that universities around the world, those who have submitted the recognition to Cambridge, have been made aware of this new grading methodology, and I'm sure the presenters later will assure you on that. I want to start by highlighting the Cambridge qualifications recognition situation in the US. We have a strong recognition landscape. Over 700 institutions in the US submitted their recognition for Cambridge qualifications. And if you can see in my PowerPoint slide, the bulk of the universities are actually concentrated on the east. However, we do have a lot of university systems on the western part of the US that are actually giving us recognition statements for our students. Yeah. For today, I just want to highlight to you about what we call the AS level route to the university. Many of you are not aware that actually in the US, over 300 institutions recognize the AS level route for entry into the universities. And I think for many of these universities, they actually provide some kind of credit. Of course, it's not going to be similar to those with A levels, but they do provide some kind of credits for those who enter with the AS level. Yeah. Just to share with you these different states and the university systems in the US have actually officially submitted their recognition of AS level and A levels, and with that, they actually provide the indication as to what kind of credit should be given for those with these two qualifications. This would include Florida, Mississippi, Washington State, University of North Carolina system, Arizona State, as well as Virginia. And moving on very quickly, I would like to hand over the panel to Luke. Luke is the Regional Education Advising Coordinator for Maritime Southeast Asia. And perhaps if I can say first, that Look and Education USA would be one of your best resources locally as well as regionally. Luke, over to you, please.
Thank you, Kamal. Good morning, everybody. My name is Luke, and once again, I'm the REAC for the Maritime Southeast Asia region. It's a pleasure to speak to you this morning, and hopefully I'll be able to give you a good opener and a good introduction to U.S. higher education so that my colleagues can kind of continue on with their own institutions. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So what is Education USA? So we are a U.S. Department of State network, over 430 international advising centers in more than 170 countries and territories. So we are part of the U.S. government, the Department of State, and we are basically all over the world. A lot of our centers are based at the embassies, U.S. embassies or consulates. You can find your nearest center across Southeast Asia. And the services that we have are available for free. And it's you might find it interesting that that we are part of the Department of State, which is like a Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a lot of countries. And it shows that the United States is unique in a way that we see higher education as an important part of international relations and public diplomacy. We wanted to make sure that our universities serve as platforms for this talents and brains from all across the world to come together to share ideas and work together to come up with solutions, creative, innovative programs that can resolve the challenges that we face as a global community. And we really want to make sure that our universities serve as a training ground for future leaders. We have trained thousands and thousands of leaders across the world for over 100 years. And this has been the direction for the United States for the past century. There have been some challenging times like 9/11, wars, and now the pandemic, but the overall direction has not changed, and it will remain the same. So the United States really welcome international students. It is the top destination for international students. We host over 1 million international students. And then let's move on to the resources that we have to share. Next slide, please. So please check out our website, educationusa.state.gov, and and then you can log into our website to find an advising center that is near to you. And our advisors are available for individual one-on-one advising, as well as they are available for webinars and workshops. So they've been holding cohort advising sessions on a regular basis, speaking about the application process. We do have our signature 5 steps to US study workshops, and we go through the steps that are involved in applying to universities in the United States. The first step being researching the college option, the second step being financing the college education, the scholarship options available, financial aid available, and then we kind of walk you through how the students can look and search for scholarship opportunities that are relevant to their needs and their background and interests. And the step 3 is about applying to US universities. And there are different platforms such as the Common Application. It might be a bit intimidating for students who have not experienced the US college application system, but we will walk you through from applying for admissions, getting the teacher recommendations, and writing the essay, which is all an important part of admissions process and for evaluation. And the fourth step being applying for visas. A lot of our centers, being based at the embassies and the consulates, we share office with visa offices, and we work closely with consular officers. Of course, we don't answer questions about visas directly, and then we really focus on what steps that are involved in applying for visas. But if you have additional questions, if you have additional inquiries, we can get a visa officer to kind of join one of our workshops or events to talk in more detail about the visa issues in light of the current situation that we face these days. And the fifth step being preparing for departure. We do have pre-departure orientation around the summer. And then our advisors will talk about not just the visas, but what you need to prepare to adjust successfully in the United States once you get there. And we have series of events, college fairs, where we bring university representatives to set up booths to interact with students and share information. So please find an advising center using our website. It's pretty easy to navigate. But for now, all our services are kind of given on a virtual platform. So no in-person advising, for security and safety reasons. But our advisors are available on Zoom, Google Meet. So please reach out to our advisor. Next slide, please. So just briefly, why choose the United States? What makes the United States a top destination for a study abroad and your college education? Well, I don't have a lot of time, so maybe I can share my own experience as an international student. So I myself was an international student, and I was the very first person to be in the United States. And my father, who's never been to the U.S., actually told me that about this idiom that all roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome, and it refers to the road structure in the ancient Roman Empire. They had a pretty sophisticated road structure, but at the end of the day, all of those roads led to one destination, that is Rome. And then my father said, whatever you're interested in, whatever field you're interested in going, if you want to be the very best, you cannot avoid going to the United States. They have some of the biggest industries, biggest field, biggest players, and some of the biggest leaders are all coming to the United States. So if you're interested in economics and business, we have New York and Wall Street, and some big mega companies like Goldman Sachs. If you're interested in tech, IT, or startup, we have the Silicon Valley, and then we have big companies like Google, Amazon. And if you're interested in entertainment, the Hollywood, Universal Studio, Walt Disney. If you're interested in science, space science, we have NASA based in Houston, Texas. So we have some of the biggest players, the biggest fields. And if you really want to be the very best, eventually you will need to go to the United States. And there are many roads that lead to the United States, but one of the most efficient the best way to get into the United States is through the colleges. So that being said, there are difficult times. People talk about timing. Is this the best time to go to the United States? There can be tough times due to like things like war or riots or pandemic. But the value of an American degree lasts for a lifetime. It lasts for much longer, and the weight of the degree, it's more than just a document. It's more than just a paper, more than just a diploma. The American degree shows the type of experience you're exposed to as a student in the United States, the type of market, the type of industry you're exposed to, the type of network, the extensiveness of the network you have access to. So it comes as a package, and this is why we do really hope that we encourage students, parents, and the community to really consider U.S. as one of the top destinations. Next slide, please. So once again, I encourage, if you have further inquiries, please contact your nearest advisor. They're available to answer just any question. They will walk you through from step one, researching the right option, the college that would be the right fit for you, and to finding ways to finance your option. There are misconceptions out there that the U.S. universities are just very, very expensive, but that is a misconception. The U.S. university, we have over 5,000 universities in the United States, big capacity, and there are just various types of options, affordable options available as well. So please reach out. We are available, and I will leave you with that.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you for setting the context of the US education. And again, thank you for the reminder that the US is actually the top international destination for international education, basically. So moving on, I would like to start with our colleagues, our friends from Northeastern University. Over to you, Brandon and Bo.
Thanks. So Bo and I are going to give you a quick overview of some information about Northeastern University. My name is Brendan Graham. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Northeastern, and I've been doing international recruitment there for the last 5 years. I've worked all over the world, but spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. So happy to share a little bit more about Northeastern with all of you. So if you're not familiar with Northeastern, Northeastern is a large private research university located in Boston. So we're in New England, and we really have a strong emphasis on global opportunities for students and experiential learning. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what each of those mean in just a little bit, but the basic idea is that we want to instill in our students cross-cultural competencies. We want them to have experiences not just at our home campus in Boston, where they'll of course spend a bunch of time, but also by really traveling around through other experiential learning programs like co-op, research, and service. And we really want students to take the things that they're doing in the more traditional context of the classroom out into the world and apply them and put them to the test. You can go ahead to the next slide. The first thing I'm going to start with, we can go back one actually, is just the academic piece of studying at Northeastern. So the thing I really want to emphasize here is the flexibility of our programming. So as a larger university, we have the ability to offer students a really broad range of academic programs. We have over 200 majors, and we also have a program called combined majors. Essentially, these allow students to study 2 different topics in a more interdisciplinary way than they would in a traditional major-minor concentration. If you're not familiar with the US system of higher education, a major is essentially a really core concentration of courses that you're taking, and it ends up being sort of the primary focus of your study. At the same time, we still have a liberal arts modeled education. Our program at Northeastern is called New Path, and it's based around competencies where students can take courses outside that main discipline as well. You can go ahead to the next slide. So I'll talk a little bit about this experiential learning piece at Northeastern. There are several forms of experiential learning. As I mentioned, we have a really strong emphasis on global experiences for students. These are things like traditional study abroad programs. We also have short-term study abroad programs. Research opportunities. As a research university, we are really in the business of creating new knowledge and information. Our faculty are working on that, and they do work with students alongside them. So students can get research experience as undergraduates, and they can start doing that as early as their first year of study. We also have service learning programs, which allow students to give back to the community. We're a large institution in an urban setting in Boston. We take up a lot of physical space, so we want to make sure that we're having a really positive impact on our community. One of the ways that we do that is through service learning courses, and those have students going out into the community and really using the things they're learning in the classroom to give back. The one that we're most well known for, though, is the co-op program. If you have not heard of the co-op program before, essentially it's an opportunity for students to work full-time for a period of 6 months, doing something that's directly related to their program of study. You can go to the next slide and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So as I said, you're working full-time for a period of 6 months. While you're doing that, you don't take any classes at Northeastern, you don't pay tuition to Northeastern. You're really just focusing on your professional development and the application of those things that you've been learning in the classroom. This is a great opportunity for students to really start to build out their professional network, get experience on their resume, but perhaps even more valuable than this, I think, is it's a chance for students to see the difference between their expectations and the reality of what it's like to be working in a particular type of setting, particular type of office, in a particular field, in a particular discipline. And it gives them the chance to get real-time feedback about whether or not they're in the right place. And that's something that's really going to make sense for them long-term. So they get this really important feedback on their own interests, and then they're able to use that, bringing it back into the classroom, but also informing what they plan to do after they graduate as well. We've been doing this program for over 100 years now. We work with around 3,000 employers globally. So it's not something that's restricted to Boston, New England, or the United States. We have students doing this program now on all 7 continents. So it truly is a global endeavor. And all of these experiential learning programs that I'm referencing, they all can be done internationally on a global scale as well. You can go ahead to the next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit about our campus community as well. So Northeastern is a very diverse place. We have students from all 50 states, and we're also, one of the largest universities for international student enrollment in the country. About 18% of our class every year is made up of international students. And within our campus community, there's a lot of ways for students to connect with other individuals from backgrounds globally or within, communities in the US via our cultural centers, as well as by getting involved in the community as well. You can go to the next slide, please. So some of the things students can do on campus, participating in student clubs and organizations is a really popular way to really have students build out their kind of core friend group through shared hobbies, interests, academic interests or otherwise. We have a huge range of programs here with over 500 different student clubs and organizations. We're also a Division I school for athletics. So there's tons of ways for students to get involved. Everyone lives on campus at Northeastern for their first 2 years. And then if they want to live off campus after that, they have the option to move into one of the neighboring communities in Boston if they'd like to do so. And you can go ahead to the next slide. And then just a little bit about Boston. Boston is a city that I think comes up on individuals who are looking at higher education in the US, comes up on their radar pretty quickly because of the concentration of universities in the city. There's more than 30 just in the major metropolitan area and many more outside. So Boston really is America's college town. It's a center for higher education in the US. What that means for students is that this is a city that's really shaped by education, and the demographics of the city really show that. So it's a very lively, energetic, fun place to study, to grow, and to learn. It's really alive with the energy of students pursuing their academic and professional interests. Boston as well, if you haven't visited, is one of the more European cities in the US. I think it has all the advantages of being a very cosmopolitan place, while at the same time being very easily navigable. It's not quite as overwhelming or large, which may be a good or a bad thing, depending on what you're looking for. But it's certainly quite a bit more knowable, I think, in the span of a 4-year undergraduate program than a place like a New York or a Chicago or an LA, some of these major metropolitan areas in the US. It's a little bit more of a nice balance, I would say. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Bo Benson. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the admissions and financial aid at Northeastern.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Bo Benson, and I'm a Senior Associate Director at Northeastern. I've been at Northeastern about almost 3 years. And then before that, I worked at New York University, NYU, on their admissions committee for 8 years. So excited to be with you. And I'll tell you a little bit about our admissions and financial aid process. If you want to go to the next slide. The next slide, please. Thanks. So when applying to Northeastern and a lot of universities in the United States, we accept something called the Common Application or the Coalition Application. These are two kind of general applications that you can use to apply to multiple schools with the click of one button. So essentially, when we're evaluating your application, we're looking at two main components. We're looking at your academic rigor and performance and your standardized testing if you're submitting something. So what does that mean? We're looking at the courses that you're taking, the level that you're taking them at, and how you're performing in them. So we're looking at your IGCSEs, and we're looking to see which subjects were you in, how many IGCSEs did you complete. If everyone else is completing 14 and you're completing 10, why are you only completing 10? Something along those lines. We're going to look at your AS levels if they're available to you and if you've taken them, and we're also going to look at your predicted A levels going into the kind of your final home stretch of high school. If you are submitting standardized testing, that's totally fine. We accept it. It's optional, so you don't need to submit it. But what that does mean is you can submit the SAT or the ACT to be considered. At the same time, we also have a flexible testing policy. So that means you could also apply with your predicted A levels, and that would be totally fine. So we look at both of those. as kind of an academic evaluation. But we also want to get to know what you're like outside the classroom. Are you a leader? Are you, engaged with your local community? Or are you engaged in your school community? We want to get a sense for what you're like in the classroom. Do you ask questions? Do you answer them? Are you, ready to work in a group, or would you rather work one-on, or, kind of by yourself? So we like to get a sense for all of those different facets of who you are, and we get all of those from the application, as well as the supporting documents. So your application is reviewed holistically. That means that there are kind of no cutoffs, there are no minimums, that we look at every single application that we receive and we assess to see whether or not you're a good fit for either the fall semester or one of our pathway programs. We offer several. Say the big ones are going to be our NUN program, which is not really a pathway, but essentially a spring start. So you would start your time at Northeastern in the spring semester on campus in Boston, but instead in the fall, you would actually be abroad at one of our partner locations. And so we review everything about your application within the context of your high school environment. What was offered to you, and what did you take advantage? That's what we very much look for. Next slide. So in terms of making Northeastern accessible, we also want students to be aware of the fact that we do award financial aid, need-based and merit-based scholarships, depending on citizenship. U.S. citizens and permanent residents are eligible to apply for need-based financial assistance as long as they submit the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Whereas non-US citizens or international students are going to be eligible for merit-based scholarships that can be as high as $30,000 per year. And there's no separate application process. We consider each and every student for a scholarship when we're evaluating your application. Next slide. In terms of, did one cut out? No, did we skip over one? Oh, I guess that's our fault on our end. I was going to talk a little bit about our deadlines. So typically with applying to the US, most students are going to be applying for either an early round of admission or a later round of admission. And so the early round is typically on or around November 1st, and you would submit your application to the university, and you're able to get an early decision. And so you would find out typically in mid-December. If you apply through early decision, you are expected to complete, or you are expected to withdraw from all other universities as you'll enroll at Northeastern in the fall. So you're making that kind of binding commitment to Northeastern. If you're applying by our traditional kind of regular decision plan, that is totally fine. Most students will apply by a non-binding plan. And that means that if you're applying and you're accepted, you can either accept the offer or decline the offer. It's entirely up to you. So some people really like to make a commitment to Northeastern early on and choose to apply early, but it is not the requirement. You are not expected in any way, shape, or form to apply in early decision. It's just an option that's available to you if you're interested. Next slide. So in terms of kind of the return on investment, what would you get from a Northeastern education? I really think the co-op model that we have speaks to why we've been so successful with students in the last few decades. But we very much work hard with them to make sure that they are prepared for the real world. They're prepared to go out there and have a job. They're prepared to go out there and apply for jobs, new jobs, jobs that haven't even been created yet. And they're doing that because of the experience that they gained from their co-op. So just some statistics on co-op. Last year, 93% of our students were in graduate school or employed in the field of their study within 9 months. 54% of our graduates received a job offer from someone who had employed them during co-op. So that would be if you're on a co-op with Google in your sophomore or junior year, maybe they offer you a job before you even graduate. And then last year we were ranked number 3 in career services in the Princeton Review based on the work that we do with students to prepare them for co-op, as well as internships and global study and whatnot. Next slide. And so I know it's a little difficult to get to Boston now at the moment, but if you are in Boston, sorry, it's getting late here. If you are in Boston, definitely consider coming by to campus and joining us for an information session and campus tour. We also have a wide range of digital events that we offer throughout the year. So if you're interested in kind of checking out a specific digital event that we offer, feel free. They range from, kind of broad, just, admissions in general to Northeastern, to very specific digital events that focus on a particular school or college or particular program that you could apply to. And then I always recommend, we have an outstanding virtual tour that is fairly new. I would say it's within the last few months. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't visited and you'd just like to see whether or not you could picture yourself at Northeastern, definitely consider taking the virtual tour. I also wanted to bring up quickly the credits for the upcoming year. Northeastern will be accepting A-level credits, even though the scoring has changed, or the way that the score is developed has been changed. We will still accept them as if these were, A-levels taken any other year. With Northeastern, though, we do not consider students who have only taken their IGCSEs or have only achieved the AS level. We need students who are applying to Northeastern, or we admit students who typically will have their A-levels. We look to see about 3 minimum A-levels for any student. And last year, most students were achieving A-star, A, or B, with just a few students achieving below that. So it's a very kind of academically rigorous environment, and one that requires, I'm sorry, like I said, it's late here, that requires some, it requires you to pursue the subject up till the A level. Sorry about that. But that is it for me at Northeastern, and we'll be able to answer questions, and then we'll be joining you again towards the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo and Brandon. Again, I'm sorry to take a bit of your precious sleeping time. Let's
No
move
worries.
on.
I know what I signed up for.
From Boston, Massachusetts, we want to fly to California, to Riverside, and with us we have David. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kamal. Can we go to the next page, please? Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is David. I am UC Riverside's admission and recruitment representative. And so today, I'll be introducing about our system and talk a little bit more about admission and some of the changes we have made towards our, for this year particularly, because due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So next page, please. Thank you. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with the UC system. University of California is a world-class public research-based university. We are also known as the Ivy League, the public Ivy League, and we are considered 10 campuses all over California, from the very north of Davis campus all the way to San Diego. And out of the 10 campuses, 9 of the campuses have an undergraduate degree. We have undergraduate, master, and PhD degree. And the San Francisco campus, one of our graduate school, is mainly focused on biomedical research. And we also have 5 medical centers and 3 national laboratories, which is managed by UC Berkeley as well as UCLA. And every one of our campuses is a comprehensive university. We have over 150 disciplines, academic disciplines across all majors. And so for UC Riverside, we're actually located in the Southern California area. We're really close to Los Angeles, really close to Hollywood, San Diego, very great environment. And being in California, you not only be able to enjoy great sunshine, great weather, you also be able to have access to great job markets. We're one of the biggest employer states in the United States. We have many Fortune 500 companies from Silicon Valley all the way to Los Angeles, San Diego. So there are many options to choose from, whatever the career you want to pursue, the field that you want to study in. And I just want to point out, being a research-based university, our biggest strength, our biggest uniqueness is research. UC has over $5 billion of research funding per year. And that doesn't only goes to our scientists and graduate students, it also goes to our undergraduate students. Our undergraduate students have the opportunity to get into research starting the first year in college. So that is something that's very unique for UC, especially for UC Riverside, where 70% of our students engage in research, engage with professors, our world-class professors. So next page, please. So today I want to talk about mission mainly. So UC as a system, we use the same application system. We don't use common application. We use the UC application system, and you can submit your application online. And since we're in the same system, all of our admission requirements is mostly the same. Whether you apply to UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC Riverside, UC San Diego, Santa Cruz, we have the same requirements. So the first requirement is A to G course requirements. So that's just the basic courses that you need to complete before you graduate from high school. So we need 4 years English, 3 years, 4 years recommended of mathematics and laboratory science, visual performing arts, history, social science. We very welcome British education system, especially Cambridge A-level system. We need a minimum of 5 IG and 3 A-level system academic courses. And we have been accepting students with only IGs. We have accepted students with a mixed curriculum before. For example, IG plus IB or IG with AP. That's been happening before. And as long as the student meet the A to G course requirements, we can get them into our system. Next page, please. So the second requirements, so you see, we do require all of our international applicants to have a 3.4 GPA for grade 10 and 11. For this year, I know that we had a pandemic and then the classes being canceled and starting late. And so this year we are taking pass, no pass grades for A to G courses. So which means we don't need a letter grading for the spring quarter courses. And we do grant credits for all of our classes, especially A-level. We give 12 quarter credits for 1 course of A-level. So if you have 3 A-levels, you can get up to 36 quarter credits. So that's a lot of credits. And, some of our students are able to graduate a quarter early, or even a year early, depending on how many A-level courses they have, or AP or a high-level IP. Next page, please. So the third requirement, so usually UC does have examination requirement. We do require standardized testing, SAT or ACT. But like I said, due to the pandemic, we understand there's been a lot of difficulty getting testing done this year. So we are going test optional for 2021 and 2020 freshman applicants. And so what this means is that we do not require ACT or SAT. But it may, you're welcome to take it and may help you with your admission, but it would definitely not hurt your admission. There's not going to be a requirements. Without a SAT, you will still be able to be considered for being one of our freshman applicants. And the fourth requirement is just the English proficiency. We need a TOEFL of 80 and an LT 6.5. And of course, there are many other ways to meet the English proficiency requirements. So for example, if you're from a high school that has a 3-year English, instruction in English. So if you're in IG or A-level, you should be able to meet that requirement because all the classes are taught in English. And, or if you meet, some of the other requirements like the AC test, if you have a 24 score or higher, on the combined English writing, English language art part, or the SAT, if you get a 31 or higher on the SAT writing and language test. So there are many ways to meet the English proficiency requirements, and the minimum score is 80 for TOEFL and 6.5 for LTIS. Next page, please. So going deeper into the standard testing, like I said, for 2021-22, we are going test optional. So what happens to the students after 2022? For 2023 and 2024, we are going test blind for California residents for now. We haven't made a decision on international applicants or non-resident applicants or out-of-state applicants. So, but we will likely to have a decision made soon, and we will be able to update on our official website once that's available. So in case we are going test blind, which that just means, having a SAT or ACT is not going to have any effect on your admission. So most likely we will go towards this pathway. And by 2025, we're looking to have a new testing system done. And so we will completely drop SAT and ACT tests from now on. Next page, please. So some of the other changes we made for the COVID-19 situation, like I said previously, test optional for 2021, 2022 fall, there's a typo here. And temporarily suspended the letter grade requirements for this quarter, spring quarter 2020, or summer as well. And we also extended our SIR deadline. So for the students that have already received their offer this year, we do require students to submit the SIR by May. But this year we're making a lot of exceptions for our freshmen. We know our students are experiencing many difficult situations at their home country. So, talk with your campus, whichever campus you apply to. We're very flexible this year, and we will treat each student case by cases. And then the fourth requirement, we extend the transcript submission deadline. So usually we do require your official transcript by July. So, and we know that A-level usually come out way later in August. But this year we can go even later. Just talk with us, let us know that, approximately what time you'll be expecting your transcription, and we'll be able to extend your deadline for the transcript submission deadline. Yes. Next, please. So important days. We have the exact same days across all campus. So you can take a screenshot of this just to have it in record. So August 1st is our application open date. So starting August 1st, you can start filling your application online. And this year, we don't have any changes on these dates. It's not going to affect our evaluation and admission application filing period either. So our application filing period is November 1st to 30th. And then you can take your test before the end of the year. So after you submit your application, you still have a month to take a TOEFL or LTIS and then submit the score once they're available. Also, you can also take your SAT before then as well. And March 1st is when we release our admission notification. So all of our campuses usually start releasing in March. And we do it in batches. Usually go through the month. We have admission notification coming out all the way from March all the way to April, beginning of April. And then, like I said, May 1st is when we usually request the students to submit their intent to register. But sometimes we have leniency. We are flexible on this as well. And so for UC, we only have fall admission. For freshmen, we only offer winter admission for transfer students. So there's only one period of time you can apply for UC. So for this year, to apply for fall is already too late, but you can apply for next year's fall admission. Next slide, please. Yeah, some additional information for COVID-19. So for, again, for the student that's coming this year, for 2020 fall instruction, most likely we will be going to a hybrid type of instruction, which means most of the students will be, taking classes remotely online, and we will have a very small number of classes on campus. Well, that still depends on the situation, the pandemic, if it's gonna, the situation gets better, but we will make sure that our students are safe when they're on campus. And that may last to, for additional quarters, past fall quarters to winter or spring. But so far, we haven't decided yet. And we do offer enrollment defer this year. You can defer enrollment. So students do have the option to come in winter quarter instead of fall. So if you are facing a visa issue, if you don't feel safe coming to US for this year, you have the option to defer your enrollment for UCR. So you can defer your enrollment to 2021 winter quarter, which is starts in January. And for tuition, so you see, we share our tuition. We have the same tuition across campus. We differ by a couple $100, but most likely, nothing's going to change this year either. We're not going to change. The tuition is going to remain the same, whether the classes are taken online, remotely, or if it's going to offer it in person. And just giving me an idea, the tuition right now for non-resident student is about $45,000 per year. Yeah. So next page, please. Thank you. And we understand that our students are facing many difficulties, and it's a difficult time. And we are offering a scholarship for our applicants. It is a merit scholarship. It's called Non-Resident Achievement Scholarship. You can get up to $4,500 per quarter. And we are a quarter-based system. And so there's 3 quarters per year, per academic year. So that's about, the maximum you get is $13,500 per year. And you can get that all the way until you graduate. So as long as you maintain a GPA of 3.0 and above, you can get that scholarship for the full 4 years. If it takes you 4 years to graduate, you can get it for 4 years. If it takes you 5 years to graduate, you can take it for 5 years. So I think that's a very good opportunity. You don't need to apply for the scholarship. It will automatically be given to you based on your application, based on your grades. So everybody will have a chance to get the scholarship. Next page, please. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the changes that we have made this year for our international applicants. And if we will have a Q&A right after this, but if you guys do have additional questions later on, you can contact me. I listed all my contact information on this page. I have my email, WeChat, WhatsApp. So I'm very reachable. So if you have any question regarding UC Riverside or UC system in general, you can let me know, and then I'll answer some of the questions that is directed towards UC in the later half of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. I think it's good to know that whatever that you've presented is also applicable to the rest of the UC system.
Yes.
I think that's important for our parents and for our students. We want to start with the Q&A session. May I invite all the speakers to be on video, and also to perhaps look at the questions given on the chat box, the Q&A box, and see whether you can marry the questions that I have here and whatever that's inside the Q&A box. I want to start by showing you the first set of questions that are already that have been pre-sent to us in terms of the application process and deferment. Please chip in when you think is necessary for you. Yeah. So for the application process and deferment, Northeastern, maybe you want to start first. Yeah.
Sure. So in terms of applying, at this point, we are no longer accepting applications for fall 2020.
Right.
If you are admitted, though, you have up until July 1st to defer your enrollment. If you essentially are not ready to join us in the fall, our plan right now is to hold, to have the fall semester be held on campus. We're doing a lot right now to make sure that Northeastern is meeting certain guidelines that have been set forth by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to make sure, that there aren't too many people in too close proximity. So that means expanding residence halls. That means altering the kind of way our daily class structure looks like. But essentially, we're still planning to have campus, to be on campus in the fall. So you can defer, and you can always defer if you want a gap year. I can, if you want, I can keep going. We don't offer interviews. You can submit like a virtual third-party interview through Initial View or Vericant if you're interested. We allow students to defer for Singaporean national service without a problem. They just have to let us know. And right now, I would say to students who are considering deferring for a year due to the coronavirus pandemic, so I think it's really, there are two things to consider. Regardless of where you go, a lot of universities are going to have an online component this year, and a lot of universities are going to have a dramatically different kind of schedule. That means that you could be part in the classroom, part, online, things along those lines. So you have to really think about that aspect. Are you opposed to it? Or are you actually concerned for your health? and need to stay close to home for health reasons. I would say if you're genuinely, if you're going to stay home, and I would say twiddle your thumbs and not really do much, I would say, you know, the better option would be to actually go forth and pursue your education. If you're admitted somewhere and you want to be engaged and stimulated, I would say your option should be to continue and to pursue your education wherever that may be. But I think a lot of students are saying that they're going to defer this year because they don't want to be on campus in case something were to happen. And I think that's really hard to predict. So I think a lot of universities, at least, we're telling students that this is going to be the case wherever they may end up. So really think about whether or not you're okay with sitting at home, or if you're ready to, you know, move forward with your education. We're doing a lot. I would say every university in the US is doing a ton to make sure that our students will be engaged, that students will be safe if they are on campus. We're not willing to put anyone at risk. And so, I mean, you look at what the UC system has done. That is, they are going to have an outstanding semester, albeit one that looks different than what it would have traditionally looked like. But I would say, you know, really consider what you want out of your first year, and whether or not you're willing to wait an entire year. Because a lot of times when students wait that year, we see a lot of students who essentially start off deferring and ultimately choose not to defer, and they no longer pursue their education because of something that's happened in the first year, in that year off.
Bo, can I just pick on this in terms of those who wish to study online? Are they so expected to be in country, or they can do it from wherever home country
they can do it? Well, at least at Northeastern, they'll be able to do it from wherever. We have a new platform that we're releasing to students that will allow students to be anywhere in the world and complete their coursework. And so it's not like you have to get up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to hear a lecture live. It could be pre-recorded. It could be doing group work that allows you to connect with other people in the region. So we're doing a lot to make sure that it is as global as it can possibly be, especially given the size of our international student population. At Northeastern right now, we have the 3rd largest international student population in the US. So, you know, we're definitely mindful of the, you know, time differences, things along those lines, but it can be completed anywhere in the world.
Thanks, Bo. David, you have any thoughts on the questions here?
Yeah, so going to following the question, so we also you know, our student can also take courses anywhere they want. If they don't want to come to US, they can stay home and take our courses online if it's going to be offered online. And we will also, you know, record our courses. You know, our professors will be, we'll try to tailor our courses, our international students' courses to the morning section period. So we know most of our students come from Asia. So we'll try to fit it in their schedule so they don't have to stay up late or, you know, wake up very early in the morning. And so following some of these questions, you know, UC doesn't have interview. We don't offer interview. Our essay, personal statements, we have a very unique personal statement requirements. We call it personal insight questions. So we have 8 questions. The student choose to answer at least 4. And they're very short response questions, about 350 words. So most likely, you know, just we really want to learn about the student. This is our way to get to know about a student besides their test score, besides their academics. We want to know about their leadership qualities and their contribution to their community, school, and community. You know, what makes them stand out, and you know, how they define themselves mostly.
Yep. Yeah. Look, Education USA, any tips for a good essay, personal statement? I know this is a webinar on its own, but you know, a quick one, if there's any tips that you could share.
Well, given the situation, we understand that students will be limited in terms of the extracurricular activities, you know, being stuck at home. But admissions officers will be still interested in finding out, you know, in spite of the limitations, what did you still do to pursue your passion? And I think that's going to be an important aspect, given that, you know, like we mentioned, a lot of universities are going test optionals, and because a lot of the classes, a lot of the grades that we're going to see for this semester will be pass or fail rather than letter grades. That will drive admissions officers to look into essays even more than before. And so I think you do need to take some time to, you need a lot of time, you need some good planning, you need the right approach, choose the right topic, where you can really share something unique about yourself. And to talk about something that your application cannot show. Sometimes students just write about accomplishments, which can be written, but you don't want to be kind of rehashing things that can be written elsewhere in the application. Really focus on things that make you stand out among the applicant pool. And I just want to echo what the others have spoken about. The online learning, people have concerns about online learning. But I think if you look at it from another angle, yes, at the end of the day, it's your call to, to enroll or defer. But if you are okay with just taking classes online, you're going to be part of a solution. Rather than just avoiding the problem and waiting until the problem to be over so that you can join in. You're not just simply taking classes, but you're actively participating as a member of the community who is looking at these challenges and difficulties which is like pretty much shared across the world. And we appreciate that active attitude where we see students, hey, we know that we're having these difficult times, but these are the options that are available for us, and I want to participate and be a part of a solution. So I think, so at the end of the day, it's your call, but those are some of the thoughts that I have to share.
Thanks, Luke. Moving on to the second set of questions on fall 2020 admissions, I think these have been answered mostly, but in terms of safety and security, and for those parents who are worried about the students, David, maybe you want to start first.
So safety, whether it's health related, we do have our own, we do have our medical school. We also have our health center for our students. And, safety, we understand safety is one of the major concern for our international students. So UC offers many, programs. We have our own UC police departments. They serve our campus, and then we have our own trained professional staffs. We have, emergency notification system. We have, escort service. So we have a wider range of programs, services available to make sure that our students have a very safe environment to study and to live in. Yeah.
David, I just want to highlight, there's a question on Q&A box related to UC. Maybe you just want to address that as well. In terms of it's basically on IBDP, but I thought
IBDP. Okay. Is it the submission for the final transcript?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So UC applications, we don't need your final transcript until you get admitted. Once you accept your offer, and we understand. So by the time when you submit your application, you're still in your first semester of your last year, right? So you can submit your predicted grade on your application. We do have a section where you fill out your predicted grades, and we'll go off of that.
Thanks. I think with regard to the safety and security, I think Brandon and Bo do disagree, but I do think that most universities would have all the SOPs in place to ensure the safety and security of all the incoming students. Yeah. I just want to move on. I think this has been accepted, or rather been explained by the presenters just now. And as I mentioned earlier on, in terms of the use of AS level, there are a lot of other universities. So do check out on these other universities separately. I've shown you earlier some of the states that do accept AS level on the credit policies as well. So do check that, yeah. In terms of the last question here, can we use AS level as predicted grades? Brandon, any thought on this?
So we often see students submitting, AS level results when they're in the process of completing a series of A-level exams. But at Northeastern specifically, we wouldn't have a student really be competitive for admission if they were only applying with predicted AS level results. We really do need to see like the UC system, students continuing on to get those 3 A levels.
But would you provide some kind of conditional offers that, you know, if even with the AS level, they need to submit A levels results later on, and they will be given that unconditional offer? How does it work? Do you still have that kind of facility for using AS level as predicted grades only?
No, we would really encourage a student to apply in their final year of study after completing AS level exams. Because in order for our process to really go through a full evaluation, we would need to have predicted grades for their A level results as well, need to see the subjects, etc.
Sure. Thanks, Brandon. Moving on, I think for ACTs, there were basically a lot of clarifications being made just now. Any other things that you want to offer? Anyone?
I would say for UC for this year, especially if you're applying to some of our competitive, more competitive campuses, more selective campuses like Berkeley, UCLA, I do still, you know, recommend taking the SAT test, even though it is optional. Like just like SAT 2, the SAT subject test, they're test optional, but having a score will probably help your admission chances for some of these schools.
Yeah.
I would say for Northeastern, we are, just due to the size of our international student community and our testing policy changes, we're very, I would say a test will benefit you if you have a test, but it does not need to be the SAT or the ACT. That could be your predicted A levels. If you're in the IB, it could be a predicted IB. We will consider them on par with an SAT or an ACT. So I think a test is always good because it allows us to standardize and see what you're like in comparison to students from across the globe. But, you know, we would like to see a test. It doesn't need to be a specific test. And then if you've taken the SAT or ACT, I think the guidance that we always give is go to the university. Maybe it's not the UC's, maybe it's not Northeastern, but go to the university's webpage. Look at what the middle 50% is. And if your scores are in the middle 50% or the upper end or above, absolutely send them. They will do nothing but benefit you in your application process. But if you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, oh, I got a really good score. Maybe you got 1,300. And you look at the university that you're applying to, and their middle 50% is 1,420 to 1,510. Do not send those scores. It may be, and it is a good score. 1,300 is a strong, good score. It's not good enough for some institutions. And that in that moment, that's when you send in your high school transcript. That's when you focus on your academic performance in the classroom. That's when you send your predicted A levels if they are really strong. That's when you send your predicted IB. But just remember that when we're, as a university, looking at applicants, we are looking at students from around the globe with all different varying levels. And one score that may be really good at your high school or in your country may not be competitive for admission. So you need to put your best foot forward. And putting your best foot forward is knowing the institution you're applying to, and then deciding how to apply to them and what to send to the university. So I think that's important to consider. If you're going to applying to a place that's test optional, just be very mindful of their middle 50% and the type of student that they admit.
Yeah. Thanks, Bo and David. Very clear in terms of the message with regard to SAT, ACTs. The next one, finance and visa. Again, many of you, both David and Bo have spoken about this. But in terms of visa, would you be able to address it? Any one of you?
Sure. So in terms of the visa process, every university is in the process of, announcing different plans for the fall. Some universities are really planning to have things proceed as typical. Others are offering, an adjusted schedule. They may be starting earlier or starting later. So every school is responding to this in slightly different ways. But at Northeastern, we're essentially asking students to continue to pursue the visa process as anticipated, with the understanding that different countries are going to have different levels of access and availability to schedule visa interviews at their local consulate or embassy. For that reason, many institutions like Northeastern, again, are going to be offering courses online from a student's home country in the event that it's necessary, whether that's, for the first month of classes or the first semester. It's going to vary from institution to institution. One update that I think is important for students and families to know is that, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Office has authorized the school officials that issue the I-20s in the US to issue them electronically this year. So typically this form used to be mailed to students and it would add a few weeks to the processing time. But now that we are sending them to students electronically, it is a little bit faster. So in a year where we are very much aware that time is of the essence in the visa application process, that's one thing that will expedite this a little bit more quickly.
Right. What about work visa for students in view of the pandemic? Will there be any restrictions? I think this is a question from the Q&A box.
So at Northeastern right now, we have not, at the level of the admissions office, we haven't heard anything directly related to students having issue, using their CPT or OPT related to the pandemic. As always, I think, questions around employment, they can vary with the times in terms of the political moment that we're working in, but a lot of times those things end up being, rhetoric as much as reality in terms of, the political landscape being a representation of what employers are actually interested in doing in terms of hiring and their ability to hire students for work positions.
Right. Luke, can I invite you to perhaps say a few things, last few words with regard to Education USA and the US education in particular?
Sure, yes. So for visas and the issues around OPT these days, for the visa services, a lot of our embassies and consulates, the consulate office are closed at the moment, but whenever they are open, we're going to make sure that we will prioritize the student visas. And the Education USA is planning to have a series of pre-departure orientations in your region. Of course, they will be done virtually through Zoom or other virtual platforms. But a lot of us are trying to invite a visa officer to come and present for those sessions so you can direct your questions. And a lot of them will happen from mid-June to July. But at the end of the day, please continue to check the embassy website, the visa service website. It should vary per region. Of course, some are just completely closed, some are just open for emergency appointments. But we are updating those visa services, the office hours, and we are hoping that our visa services will resume as soon as possible. And for I just typed some dates for the new SAT test in the chat box. So if you haven't seen it, please take a look. The College Board just made an announcement, and the registration is open as of May 28th. So we have some new dates for SAT and SAT subject tests. A lot of the tests have been canceled from March to June. So they're having additional dates for SAT and SAT subject tests. So please make sure that you check out the College Board website for registration and test dates information. So, well, I know we're out of time, so I can't talk much, but please, the U.S. Institute, we're very committed. We're committed to continue to serve international students, make sure that the quality is there, the value of education, the U.S. higher education is there, worthwhile for international students. It's going to be a good investment for your life, and we're going to work with you to ensure that whether our semester is gonna be done online or in a hybrid format, the quality is still going to be there. Our community will remain strong, and will be there. Well, and Education USA will always be there as a support for you.
Thanks, Luke. Just one last live question that I think we should answer in terms of students with vision challenge or really those differently able students. Any thought from UC or Northeastern?
You see, we do provide special assistance and services to students with disabilities, permanent disability, temporary disability. So every campus has a service center. So our students with disability will have no problem participate on our campus, completing the degree. Yeah.
Right. Well,
And that's the same with Northeastern.
Yep.
Sorry, I have fireworks going on right outside my window. But yes, that would be the same at Northeastern.
Right. And with that, thank you so much for taking your time. Again, for my colleagues in the US, it's your sleeping time now. You know, I do apologize for this. And for the rest of the participants, I do hope that the webinar has been informative for you. Our next webinar that's relevant to you would take place next month. It's with regard to AS level universities that accept AS level. And with that, thank you so much. And I hope to see you once again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.